Welcome back to the First Berserker Khazan. For you today, I have two builds to take your spear gameplay to the next level. Yes, two, not one, but two good builds, maybe three. You know what? Drop a like if you want to see more builds in the future. And without further ado, let me tell you already that making a build in this game can be time consuming and resources heavy. So I'm going to hold your hand, guide you through this process, just to ensure that you don't end up making the same mistakes I've made while trying to come up with a good build in this game. So first thing first, I am level 333. This is New Game Plus 2 gameplay, and the reason why you should consider playing till New Game Plus 2 is because you get more legendary items, and they make a big difference when it comes to how they can transform your build crafting experience in the game overall. So you do get the option to craft legendary items by the time you complete New Game Plus, but the problem is you will never be able to craft the materials required to craft legendary items. Knowing that, the only way to craft legendary items is to dismantle the ones you already have. The problem with that is that in New Game Plus, the drop rate is really low and you can only farm them on the very last mission. That's the problem. So you go to New Game Plus 2 because the drop rate is better. That way you have more items to dismantle, and that gives you more items you can craft. Something else you could do to maybe counter that and not have to go to New Game Plus 2 is to talk to Diomuk. I think that's his name. You talk to him after each mission. He's going to reset his store, and you can buy some items from the store. They are quite expensive. I'm not gonna lie to you, they are very expensive, but this might be the only way to get items, legendary items in New Game Plus. But if you don't want to do that, you just go into New Game Plus 2. That way you have good gear you can dismantle to make even better gear. Now, the process of crafting and making a build is a bit tedious and resources heavy. So I highly recommend you are 100% sure about the build you want to cook before you try cooking, because if you don't do that, it's just going to be wasting your resources, wasting ingredients you've spent quite some time collecting. So I'm level 333, but because of the newest update, they made some changes when it comes to the way the shops and blacksmiths adapt to your level. So I can craft up to level, let me check, just making sure, 339, which is my actual level if I keep upgrading. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to spend my remaining lacrima on upgrading my character, but I'm going to use it to reroll. I'm going to use my lacrima to reroll my attributes when I'm done crafting the set I want to use. The centerpiece of this build is the golden set, because it gives us access to Moonlight Awakening, which is the best skill for the spear. I'm going to call this build the BACKSHOT build because it's going to make sense later. But for now, we need to dismantle enough materials to be able to craft legendary items part of the golden set. Now, you don't need to have legendary items. It just takes your whole experience to the next level. It just gives you better attributes. But because you only need this set, you can get this build the moment you have access to being able to craft the set, or you have different pieces, up to 6 of this armor set. So first of all, dismantling the things we don't need, and I think we don't need anything here, so I'm going to dismantle those. Boom, it's gone. And also here, I don't need epic items. I don't think so. So I'm going to dismantle those two, and boom, it's gone. I think I should have enough right now to craft this set. Let's see. The set is right over here, the golden set, and I can craft everything here. Awesome. It's also going to scale with my level, so I have the best possible outcomes when it comes to the attributes and the percentage or numbers. So I crafted those boots, the leggings, the gauntlets, the pauldrons, the helm, and you know what, the spear too. So right now we have everything we need to go into the kitchen and start cooking. That's only step 1. Step 2 is to talk to Okhsana, and then we can start re-rolling the attributes we get to make the most out of the build. Now, right now I have 38 million lacrima. The reason why I do is because I farmed Okhsana, and if you want to opt to farm bosses in this game, it's better to just run them down to 1 HP and then die. That way you don't have to go all the way back to the crevice and come back. I feel like it's a way faster process. So you go fight the boss, you don't kill them, you die to them when they're about to die, and then you just recover your lacrima and repeat the process. It's the fastest way to get resources, I mean lacrima in this game. And trust me, 30 million may seem like a lot, but it may not, depending on your luck, because yeah, you'll be gambling. Depending on your luck, it may be enough, it may not. So yeah, something else you could do to get lacrima is to extract lacrima from the gear you don't think you're going to need. But here you need to make a decision when it comes to whether or not you want to extract lacrima or you want to dismantle for materials to craft items. So I leave the choice to you, but just know that you do have those two options. You can also buy from the merchant and resell, extract lacrima to get the things you need to reroll. You need to equip the items we just crafted, so I'm going to do just that. You're going to notice that I crafted the helm, even though I didn't have to, because I don't think you absolutely need a jar for this build. It's going to become relevant later, but yeah, you could also craft the helm if you don't feel like using the jar. But I feel like the jar is very important. I'm going to explain why later. There we go, everything has been equipped. Oh, I forgot to craft the rings. I'm going to talk about the rings later, but right now we can only focus on the things we have. And right now let's talk about the weapon. On the weapons you can get pretty good things. I think you can go for damage on every single attribute, the random ones, the ones you can change. So let's try to get something good for this build. With this build, we tend to go behind enemies quite often, so having rear assault is pretty good. I don't feel like it's the best version we can get, but it is pretty good. So I'm going to hold on to that one and try to get something else on those two attributes. Right now, damage increase can go from 5% to 13%, so I can get way more than that. So I'm going to try my luck and try to get something better. It's not going great, and you can see I'm down to 32 million. So something you could do here, by the way, this is a very good attribute to have. So basically, whenever you have full health, I can have 18% more damage. So I'm going to keep that because this is really awesome. Now I don't know if how much you spend also determine the quality of the attributes you get, because right now I'm tempted to just reset the reroll thingy just because this is becoming way too expensive, and this is only the first item I'm rerolling. So I'm going to do that, reset, and then go back again, trying to get something just as good as the thing we just get. And there you go. So right now I have a weapon which is focused on rear assault and having full health, and this for now will do. I'm going to go and try to get some good things on my other items. I'm going to ignore the helm for now. I don't have to do that because I already have my very special jar. So I'm going to focus on anything else. Now when it comes to your chest armor and your leggings, you cannot choose offensive attributes, so you can only go for defense, health increase, or stamina increase. I'm going to try to focus on reducing my overall, increasing my stamina and maybe my health, because I don't have that much health. I never increased my health when I'm never increased my health when I'm using a spear. So maybe I can find ways to get there simply by using our armor set. But this is also better. Received damage is going to be decreased by 9.5%. This is even better than having health. So I could reroll my defense and try to get some health. Let's try to do that. But I could also go for this, which is, I guess, better than having more health. So right now I have two perks working for me. Whenever I have full health, I'm going to stop for now and come back later because this seems decent. Now, when it comes to my gauntlets, I could go for something offensive. Right now, whenever I have full health, I can have access to 14% more damage. Again, this is huge, but I do want to have something better. So I'm going to try to get that. As you can see, the game has not been kind to me when it comes to rerolling. So I'm going to have to stop now, even though I think this Those two are really good. Maybe even that one. I mean, they are good, but they're not S tier. It could be better, but because I have all the items to reroll, I'm going to stop for now. And you can also see the reroll cost is getting expensive, and I'm down to 23 million. So on to the golden leggings, and oh, 10% less damage received. I'm going to keep that. That's really good, but also keep in mind that we cannot get an offensive attribute on those leggings. So max health is pretty good. It could go all the way to 600, so let's try to get something better, maybe, or just more stamina. I don't think the game is going to be kind to us, so maybe just take whatever the game gives me and go. I guess I'm going to do that because this is not looking great. So as you can see, the game has not been kind to me when it comes to the attributes I could potentially get. Those are not bad by any means, but they could just be better. But I'm not going to spend all my crema trying to get something when I could just try to get them on my ring and necklace. So I want to stop now. I'm going to spend my 16 million remaining lacrima on my ring and necklace. Now when it comes to those two, the ring and the necklace, I highly recommend having that one ring, which is going to give you more damage whenever you are behind the opponent. I think you can find that one over here. That one. Nice. You want to craft the ring and not the necklace. I'm going to explain why later. But yeah, you want to get the ring. Boom. When it comes to my necklace, I usually go for the necklace or the sinking hawk. The reason why is because it gives me access to 15% more damage whenever I am in a composed state, which is basically when you have 50% or more stamina, which is great. It doesn't apply to, it also applies to multiple enemies, which is awesome. So I'm going to craft this necklace and I'm going to go and reroll the things I just crafted. I'm going to settle for stamina because again, I have multiple perks working together to ensure that I did most of my damage whenever I have more stamina. I mean, I have 50% or more stamina, so I'm going to try to have as much stamina as possible. But ooh, this looks kind of good. This could be great, so I'm going to see how high it could go, and this is the highest it could be. So this is a pretty good road. So I'm going to stop right here and let's take a look at the build we have right now. I'm going to equip the spear. Boom. And I could go back because I think I can spend more. So let's take a look at what we have. I am going to take this opportunity to show you my skills and the ones I unlocked for the spear. So basically, I think the most important part of the build is firstly having all those things unlocked for Moonlight. It's going to make your life way easier if you have all those skills. And the second most important skill to acquire is trance. Trance makes your life so much easier and it is a centerpiece when it comes to using the awakening, which is this version of Moonlight. And every single time you perform the third strike of Moonlight, well, you're going to go behind the enemy, which is huge, which is the reason why we have all those attributes working toward real assault damage, because we're going to find ourselves more often behind the enemy. So you want to maximize your damage whenever you are behind them, and trance does just that. At level 4, trance allows you to use the skill even without having to use a spirit attack. Basically, you can use a swift attack, a potent blow, and then chain into trance, and you can repeat the process as long as you have spirit. Now let me show you what the build looks like in practice. It's going to make your life way easier if I can show you instead of telling you. Now, the one universal rule when it comes to using a spear is always to remain in Moonlight. So we need to make sure that whatever happens, we are going to remain in Moonlight. We have better damage and better iframes whenever we are performing dodges in Moonlight. So guys, please, Moonlight always. So light, light, Moonlight. Moonlight is now triggered, and every time we perform an attack after trance, it's not only going to re-enable Moonlight but also put us behind the enemy, which is why we have maximized rear assault damage, because we're going to be often, usually, behind the opponent. So Moonlight activated now. Every time I use trance, reactivation, and I'm behind. Trance, reactivation, and front. Depending on your initial position, you're going to move around, so keep that in mind. If I'm using Moonlight here and then trance and then put myself in front, that is good for me because I can recover my stamina whenever I perform brutal attack. So you always need to keep track of where you are before you perform a brutal attack. Now, step 2 is to know and understand how to deal damage with this build. Now, pay attention to the numbers. When I'm in front of the enemy right now, with a single strike, I'm dealing around 10,000 damage. Almost 1100 damage. I mean 11,000 damage. Keep that in mind. I'm going to re-enable Moonlight and go behind the enemy. And look at the damage difference. Now I'm dealing almost 30,000 damage. Actually, no, I'm dealing almost 40,000 damage depending on the strike. Now, the thing is, if you maximize your damage multiplier, you can get pretty good numbers when it comes to your damage, because we didn't have much luck when it comes to rerolling those attributes, so our damage multiplier is almost non-existent. It's 18%, which is quite low, but yeah, if you get high damage multiplier, you can get some big numbers whenever you are attacking. So whenever we are behind the enemy, we deal so much more damage with every single attack. So whenever you can, you need to make sure you can place yourself behind the enemy and deal some massive damage. So guys, front is bad, back is great. That's the only rule you need to remember when using this build. Now, trance can be chained after pretty much anything. I can use my Eagle Wing and then chain into trance. I can use Heat Wave, chain into also trance. I can use my dodge and heavy, boom, like this, and then transition into trance, and then boom, activation, and we are cooking. Now, here's the one problem you're going to have whenever you're using trance. There is a little bit of a gap between you and the enemy whenever you go behind them. It's not quite like, I would say, Shadow Reversal, which is also a very useful tool for this build. If I'm using Shadow Reversal, I'm right there when I go behind the enemy, so I can keep applying pressure. Whenever I'm using trance to go behind the opponent, I'm quite far, and that distance can be the difference between you maintaining pressure and the enemy recovering their stance before you can strike again, and they could possibly hit you before you do anything else. And whenever you are using trance, well, you can cancel it, so you have to commit. So here's my advice: you either want to chain another trance when you go behind the enemy like this, just to catch up and be right there, or you want to maybe consider having to use assault to catch up and close the gap. Let me show you. See, no matter how far I am, I should be able to catch up using assault, and if they are already exhausted, then I'm going to perform the enhanced version of assault. You can also cancel assault whenever you close the gap and then use another trance, which could be useful. Or you can just chain, you can just use another trance whenever you find yourself behind the opponent. You have multiple options. It's up to you to decide how you want to use them. Now, something to also keep in mind, I'm going to refer to Conrad here because Conrad is very difficult to use. He seems great in practice, I mean in theory, but in practice, it's way harder to benefit from his buffs than you think. Conrad gives you two types of buffs. One which is enabled whenever you perform a simple dodge, which lasts for 15 seconds and gives you 10% more damage. The other one is a buff which can stack up to 5 stacks and gives you 5% more damage per stack, which means that by the time you have 5 stacks, you have access to 25% more damage, which is substantial. Now the problem with Conrad is that whenever you perform a parry, a block, or take damage, you lose those stacks. I've done some testing and I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to work. It does say that whenever you take damage, well, the buff should go away, but the buff goes away even when you perform a simple parry. I don't think that should be the case. So yeah, you do not want to perform parries whenever you are using Conrad and you want to maximize your damage using this build. And because you'll be dodging a lot, there is a threshold in this game, and when you reach a threshold, no matter what you do when it comes to dodging, it would not consume your stamina. I think the threshold should be 95%, 95 to 80%. The reason why is because in the skill tree you can also reduce your dodge consumption, and I think every single time you do that, you decrease the stamina cost of dodging. It's going to decrease the overall cost by 5%. So assuming you already have 95% reduction when it comes to your dodge stamina cost, those 15% are going to bring that number to 100%. So I don't know exactly what the threshold is. Sometimes it's 80%, sometimes it's less. So you should do some testing, some adjustments, and also having maximum stamina does help when it comes to reducing your dodge stamina cost. So being able to dodge at no cost is huge, because you will have to be dodging if you want to keep using Conrad, and also because Moonlight enables you to deal damage whenever you are dodging. It is not in your interest to do anything else but dodge, plus the iframes, plus making you harder to hit. So yeah guys, you should dodge as much as you can, and you get your stamina back really fast either way. So I don't think there's any reason why you should consider parrying unless you have to, which is why you should never ever try to parry if you are using a spear unless you have to. So one last time, I'm going to go over the things you need to do. First, activate Moonlight. Second thing you need to keep in mind, you can use trance whenever. No matter the attack you use, even a brutal attack, you can chain trance right after that attack. Also keep in mind that whenever you are behind the enemy, you can deal up to 2 or 3 times the damage you would normally deal in front of the enemy. So you always want to go in a position where you can perform some backshots, and it's highly effective against the waifu. For some reason, I can't tell you why, but whenever you are performing those backshots, they can hit pretty hard. Well, I have a bit for you if you're not a big fan of staying behind the opponent. If you want to hit it from the front, I got you covered. I call it the Onslaught build, and basically what you need to do is, well, go through the same process and craft what I'm going to tell you to craft. Killing Flash. I think you get the recipe in New Game Plus, allows you to craft the Killing Flash weapon. It's a really strong weapon. The only downside this weapon has is the fact that it doesn't belong to a specific set, and you're going to miss out on one possible, I'll say, set bonus, because we have the special jar now, which is part of our build. Now, the Killing Flash gives you lightning whenever you perform a parry for 10 seconds, and also gives you the skill Moonlight Onslaught. Now, this skill allows you to get even more damage out of the Moonlight stance, and also gives you more recovery when it comes to stamina, overall making your Moonlight way better. Also, whenever you perform I'll say a brutal attack while being in Moonlight, It was enhanced, however it would go away after the brutal attack, forcing you into enabling Moonlight again, which could be a bit tedious sometimes. Now this elevates your Moonlight damage while also preserving Moonlight whenever you perform brutal attack. Overall, I'll say this is the best build if you want to just turn off your brain and not having to worry about going behind the opponents or having to reposition yourself. When it comes to the chest armor, I'm using the Great General Khazan, which gives me 10% more damage when I'm hitting from the front, which is the thing I want to keep doing while using this build. I'm also using those gauntlets because they also give me confront. Now confront is a very good bonus provided you can make it work. What does it do? It's going to give you 10% more damage whenever you are facing one enemy in combat. Whenever you have 2 or 3 people, it only activates when you are facing one. Something to keep in mind. So it's not going to be always great, but it works great against bosses. The Crushed Dreams leggings are awesome because they work also with Killing Flash, which also gives you lightning for 10 seconds. So this is going to make sure that you get the most out of that lightning damage. And also when you take a little look at the things I've done when it comes to the attributes for my gear, I try to focus on dealing as much damage as possible whenever the enemy is exhausted. Also when I have my stamina, which is above 50%. When it comes to my shoes, I try to go for increased brutal attack damage and try to decrease my overall damage, the overall damage I receive. This is a very offensive build, and this is why I tend to go for everything which gives me damage. You're going to notice that every single piece of gear beside the spear and the jar is going to be part of a set which gives me either damage increase or something else. When it comes to the necklace, I'm going for the necklace of the Singing Hawk. This one is a good one to have on almost every single build, as you can tell, it's going to give me more damage, 15% more damage whenever I have 50% or more stamina. And the Elamine ring also works with something else, which is the Crushed Dreams leggings, because they are part of the same set, and they also increase my Killing Flash lightning damage whenever I perform a parry. And I believe that, well, yeah, this ring also gives you more damage whenever you perform Road Smite, and Road Smite is that one counter you can use with the spear, which allows you to, well, retaliate using square, your swift attack, right after you perform a parry. So if you can stack those 3 times, you're going to deal insane amount of lightning damage. And unless the enemy is immune to lightning, the damage is insane. It goes up really fast. And this is on top of all the passive damage we already have thanks to rerolling multiple times. So I'm going to let you take in the build, take a look at the things I've tried to get as attributes. You don't have to go for those exactly. Anything you can get to increase your frontal damage is awesome. I wasn't as lucky with this build as I was with the last one, but even in this state, this is an amazing build, and it can allow you to do the things the BACKSHOT build wasn't able to do. And this is even more consistent because you don't have to worry about spending some spirit to activate trance. Every single skill I had enabled using the BACKSHOT build is still going to be applied here, but you don't have that pressure. You don't have to always keep in mind that you need to use trance to go behind people. You just deal more damage from every direction, provided you are in front of them. And because that's the case, I highly recommend using Rufric, the Resilient, as your Phantom as opposed to Conrad, because you don't have the pressure to keep dodging as much, and he gives you 15% more damage when you are facing the target, which is the reason why we are using this build in the first place. And also because you'll be benefiting from using parries. Like I said before, you lose your buffs with Conrad whenever you perform a parry, so it doesn't make any sense for you if you're trying to parry to also go for someone who takes away your buffs whenever you parry. Something you could do though to maximize your chances whenever you are playing with the killing flash weapon, because you want to parry, but also because Moonlight deals some damage whenever you perform a dodge, you could parry and dodge at the same time. It takes some skills and sometimes to get used to that, but you can parry, tap the block button really fast the moment you are also dodging, and you can get both benefits at once. Let me tell you, it's kind of tricky, but you can put it off, you can make it happen, and when you pull that off, you'll be able to get both benefits, lightning and the damage dealt by your dodges, which is awesome. Now, when it comes to using the Onslaught build in practice, it follows the same rules as the BACKSHOT build. You can still benefit tremendously from enabling Moonlight, something you should always do regardless of the build, but you can also deal some crazy damage whenever you are behind the opponent, especially when you perform a brutal from behind. So that's also something you should keep in mind. I'll say the biggest thing you should remember when using the spear is that you have some freedom when it comes to which angle you want to attack from. So whenever you find yourself behind, on the side, or in front of the enemy, you can always reposition yourself by cancelling your attacks with your dodge. Yes, dodging takes some stamina away because you don't have Conrad again to back us up and reduce that stamina dodge consumption, but it's still awesome. You can still do some amazing combos from the front and, well, do so comfortably knowing that no matter where you are positioned compared to the opponent, you will always be dealing crazy amount of damage, and you will do so while also looking very good. So that's for the second build, the Onslaught build, and it's up to you when it comes to which one you want to use, which one you prefer. I'm still looking for ways to make those builds better, especially when it comes to the attributes I can get, trying to prioritize having maximum health or going for exhaustion. You could potentially target exhaustion as a state where you can deal more damage, so you can build the build, you can make the build around dealing as much damage as possible whenever the enemy is exhausted. Something else you could always keep in mind is the fact that your lightning is pretty strong. If I put the enemy on attack, for example, I can deal some massive damage whenever I am on the receiving end, and I am encouraged to parry, something I would never do in general while using spear. It goes pretty hard and you can deal with pretty much anybody really fast. Like you just blink and they could be dead. There you have it, guys. Two builds, one if you are a backdoor enthusiast and the other one if you want to keep it casual. Those two builds are, in my opinion, the best ones when it comes to using a spear in this game. I will come up in the future with more builds, especially for the great sword and the dual wield, and maybe I don't know what the future holds for the game, but I'm hoping for more DLCs, and we can only hope for the ability to switch weapons mid-fight or even more weapons. So let me know how you think I can improve when it comes to those builds, and let me know which builds you're using, and I'll see you soon. In the meantime, have fun. Whether you're behind or in front of the enemy, and I'll see you soon. Peace.